Hey everyone, so if you're clicking this video, you're probably here for what's in the title. If you're just interested in that, then go ahead and head to this timecode here. Please be advised that there is going to be talk about the controversy surrounding Attack on Titan's manga run, and so there will be very light spoilers for Season 4 Part 2. However, we won't be discussing specifics, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you are one of our regular listeners, welcome! Season 4 Part 2 comes out this Sunday, and we didn't really have a lot of time to go through all of Season 3. So instead, here's a video that talks about some moments and characters we wanted to talk about in Season 3, as well as a discussion in preparation for Season 4 Part 2. I hope you enjoy it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Too Fast to Movie. I'm your host, Abraham, and with me is my co-host, Ben, here to talk about Attack on Titan. Today, we're doing something interesting, Ben, other than listening to great mashups.
Are those the words that you really want to use?
It's not what I would use, it's what historians will use.
Fucking damn it.
Look, okay, so today we're talking about something apart from just an individual episode. We're talking about Season 3 as a whole. And the reason why is because we have not posted in a little bit.
Yep.
The holidays were kind of around, so we just wanted to take a little break.
Yeah.
And in doing so, we accidentally caught up to Season 4 Part 2's release without finishing our rewatch.
Yeah. It was... I watched everything. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, no,
I want to make that clear.
We watched it, but we just didn't make videos about it. And I mean, why would we keep going? Because like Season 4 Part 2 is going to come out this Sunday, the 9th.
Yeah.
And with all that being said, we just want to take today's episode to talk about all of Season 3 in one video, the main plot points, everything that we kind of wanted to just really quickly talk about, and then also everything that we're anticipating for Season 4 Part 2. So with all that being said, we're going to be addressing our concerns. If you've watched our previous episodes, you know that we have some issues with Attack on Titan. It's not perfect, and we're hoping that the ending and Season 4 Part 2 can put our worries at ease.
There is a part of me that just hopes that we're not going to end up with the same sort of discourse that has been going on in the manga community, but now spilled out to everybody.
Well, we're going to be talking about the manga ending slightly. No spoilers, don't worry. If you have not read the manga up ahead until, where Season 4 Part 1 ended, do not worry. You are safe. We're not going to be covering manga spoilers. But we will be talking about mostly Part 1 of Season 3, the basement reveal, and just the themes and motifs that exist in the show as a whole.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, go ahead and hit that like button and let us know what you thought about these episodes. Do you think Attack on Titan is as problematic as we're making it out to be? We think so. It is.
Yeah,
objectively.
It's walking a really thin line at the moment.
It's walking the tightrope.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I applaud the effort.
Well,
we'll see.
We're going to have a really fascinating section to do on that. I guess let's get started with back in the good old days.
Remember Season 3, guys?
Yeah.
Remember when a serial murderer just popped out of nowhere? And then we were all like, okay, I guess we're dealing with this now.
I did not question at all the first time.
Yeah, I really did. And Levi says that, I got to really quickly just one more time say it. Levi brings it up so out of left field. It's kind of crazy.
You made the Beetlejuice comment last episode, and it was like the poor this. I remember watching it the first time and being like, "Why is he bringing up this person? Is this person going to show up?" And then, of course, it happens, and it just breaks out into what is probably one of my favorite animated segments.
It's that
Season 3
where Levi escaping.
and
everybody.
So good, so good.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Rod Rice and his brother.
Big sad. There's some tie-ins, of course, but the Rice family has been. I think we mentioned it last episode that there is a pretty big plot hole with how the Rice family and, frankly, King Fritz kind of structured the government and their ways of being able to overcome everything. But overall, the actual Rice dynamic, I think, plays out really well to a lot of the show's actual motifs.
Yes.
you and I were talking a little bit beforehand about the show and just coming up with the outline for this conversation. And one of the things that came up was the fact that this season really starts laying the groundwork for thematically what exists
Yes.
in season 4.
Not plot-wise, necessarily.
The themes of the actual sort of oppression that are going on and the cycles of hatred,
Yes.
as well as the essentially really just exploring King Fritz's idea of being just out of it and kind of owning the sins of his people.
Yeah.
And also passing the sins down onto the rest.
Yeah. Rod Rice is one of the more interesting characters, I think, in the whole show. Because we get like the entirety of his life.
Yeah.
In half a season. We see how he grows up in the in his family, knowing all the secrets of the walls, like that they are responsible for the Titans, but not really knowing the truth of what exists outside.
Yeah.
Him and his brother making the pact to, take over the king's,
they didn't know. One of the things that was really interesting was that it was more of a discovery for them that the king's ideology would take over and that his brother wouldn't be able to still go through.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other fascinating things that I noticed on the second watch through is that it wasn't an immediate thing. The two personalities seemed to blend together from what I was piecing together from dialogue.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it was.
He still knows that he is
that person, but now he has all the king's memories, and apparently those memories are so strong that it leads into that. Which, I'm not gonna lie, we actually get a piece of dialogue in season 4 that I find very fascinating.
When Aaron
is talking to Armin, which is how much of those memories are actually Bertolt's.
That whole memory thing opens up a whole floodworm of things, because if that's the case, then no person who inherits the Titan powers is truly themselves.
They're an amalgamation of all the people that came before them.
Right.
So I kind of wonder if this opens up a new door now for why Aaron's behavior changed so drastically.
Which is why we need an Aaron POV chapter in season 4 part 2, but we're not going to talk about season 4 part 2. That's why we need it, because that would be...
I will say the pieces that were brought together in season 3 are extremely important because of this. And Rod Reese's character arc and motivation are extremely indicative of that, to the point where we kind of we really hate him the first time that we meet him.
Yeah. But I completely understand his point of view, because from his point of view, he and his brother were like, we are going to do X. We're going to save everybody from the Titans because we know that it's like a man-made creation and that we have complete control over them. And then when his brother gets turned, when he has the founding Titan, he makes the call, no. Yeah. And there's a reason why, and only the person who has the founding Titan knows. So he's like, all right, if my brother says no, I believe in that. And there's something kind of like...
I don't know if it was a believe in that. I kind of looked at it as more of him giving up, actually.
You can argue both. It's elements of both.
There are elements of both there. But it seemed, at least when he wanted Historia to get the Titan back, that he hadn't completely abandoned that notion and still considered it incredibly important for it to stay within the royal family for that reason.
What, the founding Titan?
Yes.
Well, because he said that there's a reason why we are meant to be in these walls, surrounded by Titans. And he's like, only the person who has it understands that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like, I don't know if I really could. It's strange. The minute that he yells at Historia and freaks out and then turns into a Titan, does support your argument.
Yeah.
That it's more of him just giving up on the world.
Yeah.
But does that say something about how very flippant belief can be?
It does, especially I think that
shield you from the realities of the world.
Well, if you're arguing for his standpoint in life and just how he's worked as a character, I think that in that moment it was a complete piece of desperation. And also there is another like throwaway line that happens within that like sequence of episodes where he mentions that he cannot be turned into a Titan, which does imply that the reason why he became so big may have been because of his bloodline. And that may have been something that was previously known, but there's still not a ton that we actually know about the royal family bloodline, and we know we're going to be getting more royal family stuff via Historia next season.
Yes.
So if there is anything regarding that, I'm sure that it will come up there.
That's another thing. Why didn't he turn into a Titan?
He specifically says that he should under no circumstances do that. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but because it's been a month since I saw it. But I did note that he made a specific point that it couldn't be him; it had to be Historia.
I mean,
I know it's weird.
Yeah, by the rules,
I think it's by rules as written, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
I agree. But Isayama has always played very loose with what turns into a really well-defined magic system. And again, we have talked about Isayama's writing style and the fact that he doesn't think everything through 100%. It's not like he's completely pre-written the story and then going forward. So there are kind of these story editing moments that do not work.
Yeah, I would say at first I would be like, okay, because like generationally speaking, like you can only go down the line.
Yeah.
But then again, in season 4, part 1, the whole plan was to have Historia have a bunch of kids.
Yep.
So that they can all inherit the beast.
Exactly.
And then preserve it. So there's no reason why he couldn't be. But then again, that could just be like his inability to like face the whatever reality kept humanity in the walls.
Yeah, it's he's always been a more interesting piece, and I don't think we're ever going to get anything unless we start going through people's memories very drastically. I don't think we're going to be going into his POV anytime soon.
I don't know. Who knows?
Well, we're not at our season 4 discussion yet, so I'll hold my tongue on some hopes for that. But
I do also want to talk about King Fritz as a character, because we get his character through his brother in very small flashbacks with him and Kenny.
Not just that, we get his character a lot more intimately through Kenny.
Yeah, his whole like I just, because there was one sentence where he said like, I just want to live the remainder of my time here in paradise. Almost like he knew that like something like that the outside forces were gonna come in.
So that is one of the most interesting things to me, because the entire time I'm going, you don't live long because of the Titan curse. You know that, technically speaking, you kind of have immortality because your memories get passed through.
Yes. In a manner of speaking, yeah.
In a manner, yeah. There is a technical point where it is, you kind of have to wonder as to what the motivation was as to wanting to live out more time in paradise. I think that a lot of this goes down, because we talked about King Fritz a ton on this podcast. We, for the most part, landed on the cowardice that is the whole Welp's plan. And to me, a lot of this turns into kind of playing out that fantasy. But there is an undoubtable melancholy that comes with this character as well.
Yeah, because he is entirely aware of the, I guess, hatred that exists outside of paradise, and how the paradise that he is trying to create is not everlasting. He can do it for 100 years exactly, and then that's about it.
Well, what's one of the things that I find kind of interesting as far as how King Fritz as a character actually plays into other character archetypes is there is kind of like this biblical shepherd sense of the fact that he is shepherding all these people. He is keeping them safe, and they have no idea what the actual danger is on the outside. So there is, part of me wonders how the actual Titan War went, if the people of Paradise actually did lose so badly that this was essentially his surrenders treaty, and that he had already considered the wars outside the walls not just futile, but lost.
Well, in the explanation in season 4 through Willie Tiber, he was saying that King Fritz hated the war. Like, he didn't like the conflict at all. And in a way to end the war, he conspired with Willie Tybur to basically like defeat Eldia from the inside and then retreat, leaving
that's one of the
Willie Tybur.
So that's one of the things that has me. This would be one of the most fascinating storylines to explore, is how that actually played out.
Yeah,
because as far as like from an outside viewpoint, especially with the fact that it is established that Eldia is a monarchy with a king in charge, it seems like ending the war also could have been as simple as, I'm pulling my troops out and we are taking our people with us, and and offering a like actual peaceful surrender, and then we'll put up the walls and all that shit.
But the problem is, like, we saw this also in season 4, like Udo, I think it was the name, the kid who came from like another place outside of Marley.
They're just as hated.
And also, like, Eldians like live all over the world. Like, it's not like a religion, and it's borderline ethnicity, but but in reality, it's like
that is
like it's genetic too.
Yeah, well, that's one of the
you can't get everyone. Like, Eldians are going to exist. There's no feasible way that he could have gotten every single Eldian.
I don't think it would be about getting everyone. I think it would be about an actual peaceful surrender. Like, one of the things here is that
there's no surrender because they were winning the war.
It could also be a peaceful, instead of surrender, just a coincideness and being able to draw back your troops. Just because surrender does not have to be a I lost type thing. It could also just be, I'm ceasefiring.
But that's under the impression that like the founding Titan was the leader. And I think
that's the issue here, is that we don't know that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that has me very thrown off, is what did the war actually look like in order for this to have been the only good option?
I would imagine that, given the fact that there are 9 Titans, right?
Yeah.
All spread out, each of them with their own powers, and you know, it's a worldwide conquest. I would imagine there's like factions.
If there were, that would make sense for it, but there's also, and we know that the Titans had eventually got fractured and been brought under control of Marley. There's so many. I'm not saying that there's anything bad about how this was written, but I am saying that it is a fascinating element of how bad do things have to go wrong, even from what they set out in the known story, for this to have gone down the way that it did.
Yeah, like, what was Eldia's reign even like?
Not even Eldia's reign. What was the rest of the world's like prerogative on Eldia, to the point where if Eldia wanted to do just a peace treaty, if Eldia just wanted to do a peace treaty of being like, we're not going to do the fucked up things that we've been doing anymore, and we're not going to kill you anymore, please respect that, and we could all go our separate ways and just be empires. Why was that not an option?
Again,
to me, that's the fascinating element here.
Well, that's like,
what had to go wrong to make
that's
that
like
happen.
saying, I mean, respectfully, that's like saying if like the U.S. was like, hey, I know we've been like bombing the shit out of the Middle East, but we're just gonna leave, and you guys do you guys do whatever you guys want to do. The reason why that the dynamics exist today is because King Fritz left and did that peaceful surrender and did that whole like, you guys figure it out on your own.
That's the thing. He didn't. He staged it as a victory.
That's true.
That's the thing. It wasn't staged that way.
That is very true.
So there is no and there's also, if we're going into the Middle East comparison, the Middle East also has like comparisons of a power vacuum.
Yeah.
Where here we can see that, at least in the case of Marley, which is essentially our picture of the world,
it's like a transfer of power.
Yeah, it was more of a transfer of power to them.
Yeah.
And not only did they have a power vacuum, but they acted to, instead of creating any sort of power vacuum, they gave it to a specific nation that was extremely warlike.
I mean, that just goes into the whole thing of like, if you're a global power and you have the power to literally rule over the entire world, backing out and literally just saying like, hey, you know what, we'll flip the script so that you guys win. Maybe like that's his way of just like swinging the pendulum in the other direction. And maybe he didn't see all of the
repercussions that were going to happen from that.
Again, we haven't seen what Eldia's rule was like, so we can't say for certain like why, like how bad were things that he was like, you know what, we just gotta blank slate.
Let's just bail. It's, to me, that is the thing that I just find incredibly fascinating about how this show is been developed, and also King Fritz's character in that decision, because he doesn't come off as cowardice at all. He actually comes off as very headstrong and very brave in his interactions with Kenny.
Yes, it's because he's
King fucking Fritz,
and he's lived through the decision and the memories of like what the world used to be like.
Yeah.
So I guess like it's cowardice in the sense that like he's preventing his people from learning the truth and keeping them locked up and everything. But on the other hand, making this decision is not easy. And I mean, if we eventually learn the truth of like what Eldia used to be like, because all of that is still shrouded in mystery.
Yeah.
It's still shrouded in, like, they keep saying, like, you genocided the world 4 times over or something like that, which is an impossible metric.
That's not something that we can even really fathom as far as a real world piece is concerned.
Yeah. If they can demystify just like the history, that would be great. And
it's, again, I think that is a good tally for our things to see on Sunday.
Yes.
Sunday morning, 10 a.m. EST or
10 a.m. Wow, that's a great way to start off your day.
Yeah, that's good. That's our Sunday.
All right,
that's what we're doing.
Let's go ahead and jump into the next thing we want to talk about in season 3. This is the first time where we actually get somewhat of an explanation on the magic system.
Yeah. This is the only reason why we've been able to have the conversations that we've had on this podcast.
Is because we've been like, it's very like loosely connected, like the paths and everything like that. One thing that you brought up in our before we started this discussion, in the caverns when Rod Rice turns into a Titan, Aaron picks up a vial and it is labeled armor. What were your thoughts on that? Because I know you wanted to.
It's, to me, it's the most unexplained thing in the magic system that feels very much like it feels very Deus Ex Machina in its placement, and the fact that it hasn't really been expanded upon as to if there are vials that have more Titan abilities in them, because we know that that's not how the Titan spinal fluid works, at least right now. We do not know that they're extracts of the other Titans. So, for example, if that could have been a fluid that was taken from the armored Titan instead, and by consuming some of that, Aaron got some of the more advanced hardening abilities.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what happens.
Really?
Remember, in the show, he was like, I just need to take this vial. He bit it, and then that was the first time that he
ever has actually done that.
Yeah.
Which, I will say, another thing that I think is just a little bit strange, those are power... That is not something that we have ever seen the Armor Titan do, but it is something that we have 100% seen the Warhammer Titan do.
Yeah.
As far as using hardening like that. So I did have a couple like moments of, it would have been... I almost would have accepted it more if it had Warhammer written on it.
Yeah, that would have been probably a little bit more consistent. Yeah.
But,
I mean, then again, we haven't like...
That is, again, I'm going to tag that onto my list of things that I would like to see. It's just, what is that?
What is the magic system?
Yeah, like, what is the magic system? Can we please tie up some of these loose ends?
Yeah.
I will forever be mad if we never see Aaron in Berserker form again, and that was just a cool thing that they did that kind of wrecked continuity.
I mean, I literally can't say anything because I've read the manga.
I know you can't. I'm just staring you down, boy. Yeah. I'm reading you for every little twitch.
Yep. I mean, I'm not. The twitches don't mean shit. Let's end this recap by talking a little bit about our second favorite, Colossal Titan, Bertold. I had to think about it because I was like,
yeah, no, I was about to say Armin. He does not have a chance.
yes.
Um,
I really like Bertold in the context of season 3, part 2, in the final
Yes.
confrontation. I know we've talked about how disappointed we were in Bertold a little bit.
some of our commenters and community members are not a fan of the Bertold slander.
Yes. And we've read their comments actually in a past discussion.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to harp on it any longer. But
this is the moment where he shines, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
This is the one moment where we get the closest thing that can be called a Bertold arc, although I can't consider it an arc because it was not his point of view.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that we were really riding through him with the story. We do see his feelings for Annie that are coming up and being leveraged against him at times by Armin. Granted, Armin 100% had his own feelings for Annie before then.
Yes.
But the interesting pieces that play up here for me really kind of go into, we had this big question while watching is we never get a ton of screen time with him. What kind of person is the fucking Colossal Titan?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the closest that we get to it being answered. The amount of resolve that he has for leaving Annie behind and doing what is necessary. And he's one of the only people that knows the full truth of what's going on and why it's so important. And there's even a line where he says that to Armin, like, that is just the way that it is. You guys have to die.
Yeah. But I love what he also clarifies too, because Armin, it's at this point where they kind of know somewhat that they're fighting another faction of people that believe that they are devils.
Yes.
That's like the gist of what they know. And Armin even responds like, so you think that we're all monsters? And Bertold quickly was like, no, you are not monsters, but you still have to die. So it's not even like he's like kind of accepted his a way
role in the fucking
yeah, and that's kind of, I feel like it kind of is an arc a little bit.
No, technically. So I guess my question is for you: how do you define an anime arc, or or just a story arc or a story arc for a character in general?
Do
you define it as that change in beat? Well, I get beat's a little too gross of a word. Do you define it as that change in characteristic where a character goes from believing one thing to another, or do you define it as the process within which you follow that character as they change?
The former.
Got it.
I believe that arcs can happen off screen if they are done smartly, and I think that the reason why the Bertold character works for me, like thinking about it now, like retrospectively, Bertold has always been the left-hand man.
Yes.
Like he's not an important character. And the fact that he's the Colossal Titan makes that fact even crazier. But when you take into account the Marley and Eldian conflict and how all Eldians are basically used as tools of war for Marley, and the fact that he has accepted his role as that tool, I feel like that in and of itself is the arc, given the history that's happening in Marley.
So I do not agree that it's an arc, but I do 100% agree that it is amazing character development. So for me, when those two camps that we brought up, for me, I define the latter. I define the former as character development and the latter as an arc. So when I say that he doesn't have an arc, I'm talking about the fact that he isn't followed. Fact that there's no real Bertold point of view.
Yeah, like
the only time that we actually understand his character development is after all of that, when we understand the full conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've seen all of season 4, know exactly what's going on in the real world, we can say that he has amazing character development.
Yes.
But as far as an actual arc and as it plays out as you're watching, it feels like, oh, this is another one of the very mysterious behind the scenes things, and it just has not gone in Armin's favor.
That's fair. I consider the two synonymous, at least for me. Character arc and character development, because I think that compelling characters can do things or can change and be as compelling as characters that, like, because I'm going to be real with you. Bertold in this moment is way more interesting than Eren honestly, I think in all season 1. And I'm talking about not necessarily in the moment.
I agree. I agree.
Like in the moment, Bertold, I don't think like had anything amazing. But once you know everything,
yeah.
I think that everything that happened in season 1 is like small potatoes compared to this one defining moment where Bertold is like, this world is shit. I can't do anything to change it. So I'm just going to accept my role as the monster and I'm going to destroy everything.
And I do not have any arguments against that. I think that is amazing development. And I think that Bertold is an example. Again, I'm just for the way that I personally define writing in pieces. I'm not going to call it an arc, but I am going to call it development. This is a amazing example of character development that happens off screen because we get all the information to fill in the pieces later.
Yeah,
and this is one of the moments that is honestly, like, I haven't really seen much other media that actually kind of hits this benchmark and has done something like this with an off-screen character this damn well.
Yeah, because most shows, when they try to do off-screen development, it's just like the character is happening a lot. The character is changing off screen, but it's not necessarily tied to
a
reveal
story.
or like something that's like missing.
Yeah.
Whereas like everything that happens with the 3 Titan shifters in the walls, once you know the truth, every one of their actions completely changes meaning.
Exactly.
So,
and that is why we love the Titan shifters.
Yes.
That is why they're the most fascinating group of people. I think we have talked more about the Titan shifters on this show than we have about the main cast.
Because it's all a secret. Because the whole show is a mystery box.
Yes.
You're like, what the fuck is going on? What does it mean? All right. That's season 3 in a nutshell. I hope that you have enjoyed us talking and discussing our thoughts about the seasons. But now the time has come. Season 4 part 2 at the time of filming comes out in 5 days.
Yeah, roughly speaking.
Let's talk about that trailer first. What were your thoughts on the trailer for season 4 part 2?
The teaser was very underwhelming. It felt like it's like, oh, this is all going to be stuff in the first episode. Going into the actual trailer, I will say I'm hype. I will also say I'm one of the things that I couldn't find was an actual subtitled version of the trailer. So there were a lot of things like I had to do the horrible thing, which I do not recommend anyone do, where you go into YouTube, you turn on closed captions.
Those are the real captions.
No, not the ones I found, baby.
Oh no.
Oh no. It was like broken. It was broken words and like
you got to go to the official one. I
thought I had actually I clicked on it as it came out.
Oh, so it totally.
So I don't think that they for some reason uploaded the actual CC'd version on there yet. A goddamn mess. Visually speaking, excited is definitely the right word. It's the little bits that we've seen, and first of all, the goal of them to confirm that Zeke was alive in the trailer was
because you knew it.
Yeah, well, we knew it, but like, here's the thing: I knew it because of spoilers. Oh, we probably should have put a spoiler alert for the.
We're talking
people
about
that haven't seen the.
I mean, we're talking about
people that haven't seen the trailer.
I said very vocally, we're talking about the trailer.
We are talking about the trailer.
I mean, we're only discussing things that have been seen in the trailer and the teasers.
That is fair. If you don't want to see that, click down below. There is timestamps for you to get around it.
Yeah.
Okay, backtracking now so that I can fully say things without my girlfriend getting mad at me.
Did she not want to watch the trailers?
I don't think she's seen any of the trailers.
Oh. Yeah, might want to tell her before this comes out.
Yeah, I'll give her a heads up.
Okay.
The fucking first of all, seeing an actual use of the Warhammer Titan by Aaron is devastatingly frighteningly.
When he pierces Reiner, that was, and I gotta say also that I was very critical of the CGI in part 1. Not
Yes.
not all of the time, because I think a lot of the time it looked good, and I'm like, I'm not gonna like say that the show was shit, because I understand that they were under time constraints. Mappa didn't even take on the project until like every other studio was like, no, we're not gonna take it. And they like had like 8 months to do the whole thing.
Oh, Jesus, that was it?
Yeah, that's why I was so critical of the CGI, because I noticed in some of the shots, I'm like, that looks rushed.
Yeah.
Every single shot in this trailer looks goddamn beautiful. And unless they're doing something that they did in season 4, part 1, where they show trailer footage and it's not in the actual show, because they did that.
What footage did they show again?
They just redid everything. Like season 4, part 1, the trailer, none of those shots are the actual shots.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, so they just put out a bunch of shots that were just for they cut a trailer before the actual thing.
They did
was cut.
concept footage.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that will do that.
I mean, I can't even begin to stress how beautiful it looks. The CGI on the Titans looks hand drawn. Like it just does. So congrats.
I had no CGI qualms with the trailer. I didn't even notice that a lot of the shots were CGI. I thought that they just moved away from it as a whole for a moment.
No, there's a lot of CGI, specifically the Titans.
You know what? Actually, I did kind of notice that Galliard's jaw was a little bit more on the CGI side, but he didn't look bad by any means.
It's because the shading and the line work on it makes it look hand drawn.
Yeah.
So when they combine the two styles, it's like you can't even tell the difference.
The thing that I'm the most curious about going into this is clearly based off of all of the footage from the trailers, we're going to be getting a lot of the paths finally.
Yes.
Which is something that's only been teased in season 3 and briefly talked about in season 4.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see it with the blue lines and the trees, and we know that this is going to be something very, very ethereal, and I'm suspecting based off of how Eldians and Titans work that it has something to do with memories. And that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yep.
The other person that we have seen imagery of related to that has been just this little girl who, I'm presuming that is Ymir.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just straight up presuming that is the original goddess Ymir, who originally inherited the Titans based off of all the artwork that we've seen of her from the girl accepting the apple from the devil. And
Ymir's name in season 2, and why that was chosen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm presuming that is Ymir.
Mm-hmm.
What I wasn't expecting was for the costume design on her to be as modern as it was. Because nothing about the clothes that she's wearing in any of the shots that we've seen her in imply ancient or old.
I mean, it's just a dress.
That's the interesting thing, though, is that the idea that this is something that happened in ancient time ago, you would expect something that had a more distinct style to it that would separate it in time. So
yeah.
One of the things that's been kind of in the back of my mind is we've already seen the manipulation of people's perception of time happen once before.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that is something that can happen twice.
Explain. What do you mean? Say that again? Sorry,
very much put on the spot on that.
Yeah, like
the way that King Fritz was able to manipulate people's memories and be able to manipulate how either long ago something took place or when things took place in general.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if something similar had played into what had gone on with Ymir based off of costume design. Again, this is also could just 100% be me reading into it based off of artwork that I have seen by the show, and maybe there was just a lapse in judgment and they gave her something that looks like it came out in the time period that this is currently set in.
I can't say shit. So literally I cannot do shit. I can't say anything. Damn.
It's just Ben's thoughts and Abraham can't respond.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're the one who decided this would be a segment.
Well, because it's important to talk about. Someone has to
voice these.
Exactly.
Someone has to.
Because here's the thing: when we're actually talking about like the show, I'm only there to like offer critique, changes from the manga, or like just like my own thoughts on like the themes. But
And I'm
like
here to theorize.
yes, and I can't like confirm nor can I deny. I can like either like confirm or deny based on previous evidence.
Yes.
That's the only thing that I will do. Like if something big happens and I'm like, all right, if you're not getting something that's like clearly supposed to be gotten, I'll like clue you in.
Yeah, that is very fair.
I think we should really quickly talk about the manga ending. No spoilers still. There are no spoilers.
There are none.
But if you don't even want to know anything about the manga at all and like what's been happening in that world, just skip ahead to the next segment. So, if you've been on Twitter or the internet, really,
the internet,
you may have heard some rumblings about how Attack on Titan,
rumblings,
Attack on Titan, the manga ending is problematic. I'm not going to go into specifics on why it is. Ben, you know the reasons potentially why.
We've discussed this on the channel. The only thing that I'm gonna, I do think that this is important to bring up for the audience. So again, if you do not want to hear what this is, I'm gonna go into more vague spoiler territory.
Very vague.
Very vague. It does not do a great job with dealing with the fascism critique.
Yes.
That is the biggest thing that I have heard. I have done my best to avoid major spoilers. My best. I keep in mind, it is very difficult on the internet these days to avoid any spoilers looking at you, TikTok and Facebook.
Yeah.
But the actual thing here that just has me very worried about, well, of course, do they go down the same line? It also seems like there's a couple minor things that could be changed in the ending that would fix this based off of some argument that I've seen on the internet.
There's like two things that need to change. Like and I'm talking about like lines.
I know. I love your staring directly into the camera on that.
Because I'm like, Isayama, what the fuck? Like you had like he alley-oops himself and then he just throws it into the other side of the court.
Oh.
And it was so disappointing to read it. And the craziest thing is I was like, it seems like it's going like
right in the direction it needs to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then with just a few words, it muddies the waters. It doesn't go like into this is now fascist propaganda because again, the road that is paved is very well paved. I will say, if you're worried about the fascist undertones and the implications that Attack on Titan does have, Part 2 does a very good job of reassessing itself and finally making like good nailed arguments on like exactly what it needs to do to be anti-fascist.
Well, so one of the interesting things here, first of all, we should just talk about Isayama's apology on this before I go into the rest of this.
So Isayama, if you don't know, Isayama has gone on the record apologizing for the ending, stating that his intentions were not like that he didn't write down what he meant to write down. Not in like a oops my bad, but like in a like I just didn't have the right way to express what I wanted. He
didn't articulate what he wanted to or needed to in that situation.
Exactly. So given that
he had a previous draft, that was his first draft, guys.
Well, no. Another fun thing is that a lot of people were actually thinking, and I was also thinking this as well, based on the writing of the manga, it seems like Isayama potentially changed the ending 10 or so chapters before the ending. So
that's actually...
It seems like it was going in one direction, and then he might have like been worried about like what it could have meant, but then slightly changed some things to make everybody seem kind of happy.
So let's I want to take a moment to talk about this is definitely going into our next point as to the education system that exists in Japan about this kind of stuff. But at the time that he was writing this, because I am familiar with the timeline was and how when season 2 part 2 essentially started coming out in manga form, and as a matter of fact season 4 as a whole started coming out in manga form, people were already talking about the not just fascist, but the anti-Semitic undertones that existed in here. And I'm of full belief that Isayama had no idea that he had these elements in here, but they are very much there.
Yeah.
One of the main things that I'm going to cite on this, because there's always a lot of debacle, and this is probably the best example to talk about, is the use of blood libel.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest anti-Jewish sentiments that's ever existed is the idea of Jewish people eating essentially Christians and drinking their blood in order to gain powers. Then he created a bunch of Jewish coded characters using Stars of David-like things. By the way, you cannot argue that that's not Jewish coded. I will fight you for that. And then their superpowers are gotten from cannibalism. So those are two. The fact that he had the cannibalism thing paired with Jewish coded people is what led to that being problematic.
Yes.
Specifically on the blood libel thing, there's also a couple other things about the Jewish coding that we could go into.
This was years ago, because the manga, if you don't know, the manga releases one chapter per month.
Yes.
So the basement reveal happened like 6 years ago, about
6 years.
So he was getting all of that flack from 2015, 2016
exactly
on.
And that's why I think it started becoming better about he started doing that, because he was actually getting feedback from the community of, oh, you're going in the wrong direction with this. But the issue is that clearly he already had a story that he wanted to tell. But I don't think that he really understood 100% all the implications that go into that. And part of that, this is actually a long-running history in anime in general, in Japanese media, of not understanding what actually happened in World War II to a full extent.
Yeah, if you don't know, Japan does have a recorded history of just being very revisionist with the way that they teach World War II. They definitely gloss over Japan's involvement. They definitely explain it, but the extent to which Japan committed crimes,
and the extent to which how bad the Germans were as well, because one of the main issues that you will see in a lot of Japanese media is German World War II soldiers being displayed as very cool, because they were fighting alongside Japan at the time. And one of the biggest elements that you could go to, in one of the most famous pieces of media that is responsible for this, is JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. So in JoJo Part 2, there is a main character that is effectively a Nazi. He's just not wearing a swastika.
What the fuck?
I'm not making that up.
I haven't seen JoJo's, but
here's the thing.
Shit.
Yeah, and JoJo's in its early stages has its own problems. It was not intentional on the author's part to endorse fascism, and the time period that existed for this character was like not during the Holocaust, which a lot of people used to defend him, but doesn't work because he stayed in the German military till the end of the war, so he would have been part of the shit, and they just don't address that. There's a lot of elements, and that's just the big one that I can cite off the top of my head. But this is a long-running thing with Japanese media, and the fact that this is a piece of Japanese media that's trying to show cycles of hatred and trying to do it with exploring fascism, but clearly doesn't actually have all the tools to do so correctly, is still problematic.
Yeah, I will say, even I do think it's something about another thing about season 4 part 2. There's only 15 chapters to adapt, maybe 16, 17, because they've rearranged some of the chapters. And there's only 12 episodes. So the pacing is going to be a lot slower than part 1.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot less like info dumps and just a lot more, I'm hoping, moments with characters, and I'm hoping that there's going to be a revised ending. I wouldn't be surprised if there was, but also I'm not.
I think that this is the perfect chance for them to do so.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope.
Yeah.
I hope that he's taken the criticism to heart, because the manga did end a year and a half ago.
So, okay, I'm gonna go slightly off script for this,
Mhm.
but this is something that has been coming up in our comment section actually.
Sure.
The idea of potentially, because Attack on Titan, as great of a piece of media as it is riddled with plot holes and issues like its ending.
Mhm.
A piece of media that had been recently actually redone many times was Neon Genesis Evangelion for some similar reasons.
Okay.
Do you think that based off of just how big this piece of media is, and also if you think it can recover from its ending, do you think that we might eventually see versions of
Oh,
this being revisited in long
100%.
form movies, or just essentially other versions of its endings?
100%. I I firmly believe that Attack on Titan is one of the most interesting pieces of media, and I think it's executed fairly well given all of the context. Given everything that we know about Isayama, about Japan, about the way that they teach World War II, about and we'll see more in part 2 so that you can understand my viewpoint
Yeah.
on this. There's changes that would very much tonally like help to reinforce the ideas. Season 1 through I'm gonna say season 1 through 3 could use like a different coat of paint.
Yeah.
I think they're a little too fanfare, like they're very like epic, and the operatic music and the crazy action and the hype moments
Yeah.
somewhat detract from the very real and grounded story that they're trying to tell. The manga doesn't have this problem because,
It's a manga.
it's a manga. It doesn't have epic music. It doesn't have crazy action. It just has like panel art. Um, so if you're asking me if they're going to redo it, I could see it happening in the next, like, I don't know, 10 years.
Okay. That's a lot quicker of a timeline than I was expecting, actually. But
It's because of the popularity.
that's a fair point. And if we're
And
going into the cross media analyst, that's actually very similar to what happened because Neon Genesis Evangelion was
Mhm.
incredibly popular in Japan. Not it's much more fringe in the US and outside, but that's the reason why that I think it has like 3 movies redoing the ending, and like we recently on the channel just covered the like series of 4 movies that redid the entire series.
I haven't seen I haven't seen the show,
Oh,
but I should. I know.
you
I've
should
heard
fix
good
that.
things.
It will. It's not for the faint of heart at the end. Just warning you.
I mean, I kind of know the ending a little bit. Like they all turn into the lady melges into
Yeah,
people
sure.
and blows up
Yeah, that's one of
people.
them.
That's one of them.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Cool. Yeah, if you're asking me like what they should change just tonally, I think it should be unrated because
Oh gosh.
I don't think that this show should be televised. Television actually like hinders the again, I said this in another previous episode. The manga, if you think that Attack on Titan is like a little like crazy with its violence, the manga is on a completely another level. And not like to the point where it's like what is it like what's the term?
Are you thinking Berserk or?
It's very
Oh,
comparable.
it's
to Berserk
comparable to Berserk in
its gore.
in its gore. Okay.
And I think that in Attack on Titan, that gore reinforces the very like it sucks all the fun out of reading it. You know what I mean? Like,
If you don't want to have if you don't want to have fun, read Attack on Titan,
no,
guys.
but I think the reason why that works is because when you're reading a war story, you don't want to have fun.
That is
You don't want to reinforce the idea that
war is
swinging
fun.
around on these acrobatic things and slicing Titans' necks is cool.
What, you mean that there shouldn't be a bunch of video games glorifying the arcs in Attack on Titan?
You're telling me that there shouldn't be cosplay of people wearing these fucking armbands on their arms? Like, I think that a lot of the reason why Attack on Titan is under such criticism is because of the direction of it, specifically in the anime. It's
A lot of this is really on a not.
It's not
Mappa.
Isayama.
No. It's not Isayama at all. I'm forgetting the previous studio. Wit. A lot of this is on Wit Studios. Then.
Yes,
because season 4 does not have. I do not have this criticism of over fanfare for this.
Because even in season 4, like I would argue there's one time where they do it, and that is when Levi, Mikasa, and like the scouts re-arrive. But in that moment, it works contextually because we haven't seen them for like 8 episodes, you know?
But at the same time, that sequence doesn't come off as awesome.
Because
that sequence is fucking horrifying because they're bombing kids.
Yeah, in the same breath, Mikasa's like, you just killed all these innocent civilians.
Yeah.
Like, they treat it with the weight.
Yeah, no, it works incredibly well. And that's one of the reasons why I actually kind of prefer Mappa. Also, we haven't had a chance to talk about this now, so I can mention this. Again, I've been watching this with my girlfriend, and when we got to season 4, the amount of gore right off the bat was almost too much for her. In comparison to all of the other pieces that we've seen, because it was very common for OG Attack on Titan to very much black things out
with smoke
or smoke or anything along those lines. And then going into season 4, the only time that they really do any censoring like that is after Zeke has gotten himself blown out of the Titan.
That's not true. There's a lot of...
No, I'm talking about noticeable.
Yeah, okay.
I'm talking about noticeable, not from a manga reading standpoint, but from a television watching.
I'll tell you, you think season 4 part 1 is gory? That shit is even more censored than... Like,
gosh.
Like, the whole, like...
that's what I'm saying. Season... Oh, wait.
No, the most recent season.
That's the most censored, do you think?
Yes, because...
Oh, dude.
Because I'm telling you, like, all the Marley shit where they're, like, in the war, there's, like, bodies just strewn about. Like heads are blown off. The Titan bodies, like, when they fall, are, like...
Who?
I'm telling you.
Who?
And that's just, again, I don't like gore. Like, I'm not, like, a fan of it. Like, I'm not like, yes, gore. But I do think that when you are telling such a very serious story with an allegory that's very connected to World War II and the plight of the Jewish people, you need to treat it as serious as, what actually happened. And it's a terrible atrocity, one that has killed like 6 million plus people, some that have not even been accounted for. And if you're going to put it in, I don't see why. Go ahead, finish your story.
No, I don't have any. I had a fucked up thought. That's
okay. Well, what did Sarah?
No. The only thing that was noticeable really was the fact that I think that the studio actually did a better job with conveying weight, even with gore, than Wit did. Because Wit really covers a lot of things up. A lot of things that we've talked about Petra's death before, which really, technically speaking, should have been like a puddle of person on that tree. Yeah,
and like, I think No Regrets is like
No Regrets is phenomenally does exactly what Attack on Titan should be.
Yeah, that's a kind of level that like I think is appropriate.
Yeah,
because I like in motion is very different than like on the page.
Yes.
So I'm not like gonna say like, yeah, you need to show every fucking vein that's in a person's body, but at the same time, like in season 1, do you remember like when Armin was like saying like, no, please don't, as like she's like giving him CPR?
Yeah.
His whole bottom half was cut off. Which in that moment you're thinking and you're like, the whole meaning of it changes, because in one moment she's doing CPR on a still body.
Yeah.
But in the manga, she's performing CPR on a bisected body.
Yes.
Completely changes
the toning. It adds to the horror of the
desperation.
So Matt did a phenomenal video on our channel on Come and See, which is one of the only war movies that I think actually does what you're describing about correctly, where it really enforces the idea of war being seen not in like, because in American media, earlier you mentioned the idea that you don't want war to be fun, but the way that media, both American and Japanese, actually, they love to glorify it. They love to make it look fun.
And America's different for different reasons. The military-industrial complex. Like, that's the reason why war movies are depicted as fun in America.
Yeah.
Is because of that. Whereas in Japan, like, there's a whole nother cultural context, but anyways.
Yeah, they are for different reasons, but I do find it fascinating that apparently the actual manga would actually be a lot more of an anti-war piece. And not only that, based off of that description, it would also be inherently anti-fascist.
More so, yeah.
Based off of how it's designed and how it's depicted, not off of however he executed the final.
Yeah.
So one of the final things that since we're talking about how the final is being executed and very much on the heavy topic of fascism, there's a comparison that we've made a couple times on this podcast, which you have to make when talking about animes that depict fascism, but it's an important thing that we kind of talk about one of the key differences between these.
Yes, we're talking about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, not the original, because I've not seen the full thing, actually.
The original...
I heard it's a different ending.
It is, but inherently it would still be anti-fascist, actually.
Okay.
The only... spoilers for the original. I'm
gonna watch it one day, so go ahead.
Okay, you're gonna watch... No. Well, the original is more... the original has less of the problems that we're actually about to talk about.
Okay.
Because the end boss, as if it's a video game, is different and inherently more human than Father.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Dwarf in the Flask.
Yeah. My biggest problem with comparing Attack on Titan and Fullmetal Alchemist is that they have completely different controlling ideas.
Yes.
Like, Fullmetal Alchemist, more than anything, is about humanity and what it means to be human. And I guess the ability to, quote-unquote, play God. What that means and, you know...
Well, yeah, I'd agree with that. Where fascism is a theme that plays out in Fullmetal Alchemist, as opposed to the controlling idea. Really got to make that video. The other element that is pretty much at play here is the fact that in Fullmetal Alchemist, the bad guys are inherently not human. They are the antithesis of what it means to not be human within that controlling idea.
Yes.
On the other hand, though, in Attack on Titan, this is all humanity.
Yep.
There is not a single just... oh, they're only Titans, or it's the Titan monsters. These are, no matter what, people, which adds a lot to the weight of what Levi was saying, actually, when he first discovers that he was killing people the entire time.
Yes.
And how much it actually adds to essentially just how insane this story is.
Just the moral quandary of their existence, that they are... Because... at the time, they were like, we're just protecting humanity, but like, no, we're killing other people.
Yeah.
Or, I mean...
Well, it's not even that we're killing other people. It's that other people are trying to kill us.
Yeah.
That's the big thing that they had. That's the big moment, in my opinion, of what that meant. And I think... And again, this can kind of come down to Isayama's saying so himself, that he doesn't always articulate the things that he wants to correctly. The big weight of that moment really should have been not that we have been killing people, but that people are trying to kill us.
Well, because they don't know 100% why or how.
They don't know why, but they know it's people.
Not necessarily. Again, they don't know how people turn into Titans.
That's the thing, though. They know that there are some Titans that are more intelligent. They know that all the Titans are people.
That's true. Yeah.
There's enough going on there that's not only there's something more intelligent out there, but odds are at that point, based off of what they knew about Titan shifters, it had to be people.
Again, I would have to go back and read the manga to see if they do that, because again, this could be another thing.
It could be an anime thing, but I'm also only really talking about the show within the context of what has been created for animation.
Correct. Yeah, another thing with Fullmetal Alchemist is like what I love about Fullmetal Alchemist is that it has a very like tight leash on what it wants to say.
Yes.
But because of that, it can't have certain discussions that Attack on Titan does. Like you were just saying, like the character of Scar, if he were in Attack on Titan, like his whole outlook on like the world, if the Dwarf in the Flask didn't exist, if it was just a country just destroying another country. It's just, yeah, go ahead.
He is the antithesis of what Attack on Titan is trying to talk about with cycles of hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Is because Attack on Titan's controlling ideas is cycle of hatreds. Meanwhile, that was a thematic element that existed within the discussion of what it meant to be human within the controlling idea.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing a lot of terms out today.
I mean, it's kind of necessary to talk about the show, really.
The main element there for me is that kind of within the context of Attack on Titan, he's playing exactly the part that the Eldians are playing.
Yeah, he's giving it into the cycle.
Exactly.
And that's, again, the thing about Fullmetal Alchemist is that it has a very optimistic viewpoint on humanity. Fullmetal Alchemist is like beaming with optimism because it truly believes, again, because all of the problems are put onto outside forces, monsters, and not humans, it believes that humanity can rise above the conflict. Whereas Attack on Titan is clearly saying, like, at least in the current point where it is in the show, that the wheel just keeps turning.
So that is actually one of the interesting points about the original Fullmetal Alchemist, now that you bring it up.
Is that okay?
I will say, I don't know how to not vaguely spoil things.
It's okay. You can vaguely spoil Fullmetal Alchemist.
So, vague spoilers for Fullmetal Alchemist, the original. The final enemy is different in the fact that the homunculi work differently.
Okay.
Homunculi are inherently more human, and they are only the homunculi. There's no father. There's no outside force that controls the homunculi. There's no greater bridge upwards. It's just the homunculi and what their plans are.
Okay.
King Bradley is included in that number.
Okay.
So it actually is closer to a more anti-fascist critique than Brotherhood or the manga.
Okay.
Even to the point, actually, where the one Fullmetal Alchemist movie that was created, weird shit happens. I'm just going to say that, and somehow Ed ends up in World War II Germany. I'm just going to say that's the most I can leave it with.
Okay.
Weird shit happens.
Sure, why not?
It was a questionable choice back then. It's a questionable choice now, but it is actually rather well received.
Okay.
So I will say that if you finish watching the original, it makes a little bit more sense. All the words that just came out of my mouth.
Okay.
But
I'm just gonna trust you. Go ahead.
No, but that's kind of one of the things that I thought was very interesting about how that anime, which is talking about fascism, was adapted. Was it took those storylines and beads and it really focused on the conflict with Ishvala to talk about cycles of hatred, and actually did it rather well.
Okay.
So that is, if we're now changing the Fullmetal Alchemist comparison to not Brotherhood, but the original.
I
think that it's still actually a very good template to work off of for anti-fascism. So I will give it that pass. But I will agree that Brotherhood doesn't have the same lens to talk about what Attack on Titan's talking about.
Yeah. And like I said, I feel like even so, does Fullmetal Alchemist, the original one,
there's a lot more optimism about how humanity works. 110%.
That's the thing. I feel like what Isayama is trying to say, like if you were to compare the two people, Isayama, I feel like just by the nature of the story and the things that have happened, I feel like he has a very negative viewpoint on humanity, which is a very fascinating thing to see from an author, because usually it's the opposite. Or I mean, well, I don't know.
Miyazaki hates people.
But I'm saying, like,
he makes the most glowing work.
But in his work.
In his work, the fact that it is accurately reflected in his work, if that is his outlook, I would agree is definitely its own sort of monster to kind of deal with.
Like, I don't know what Isayama, like, believes, because, like, again, what you believe is different than what you're trying to write. Depending on how it goes, this could either be a reflection or a lesson.
So
of humanity.
I guess my questions for you real quick is final pieces. What do you think needs to happen in the ending?
So we already talked about it. Magic system needs to be explained. Eren needs a POV chapter because we need to understand what makes Eren tick. Why is he doing what he's doing?
Okay.
Because we can't understand his actions. Like, we need to hear it from his own mouth. And finally, what we need is we need a very decisive voice to say that what Eren or what is happening is wrong. That the current state of the world and the things and the reasons are moot. You know, like the reasons why people are fighting, the eons of history that are, you know, fueling the hatred, it's all moot. There needs to be a central figure that is saying, like, no, this is the way forward. Currently, there is no person that's saying that because everyone's in the trenches. Everyone is encapsulated with their own trauma and their own, you know, their own baggage that they are so blinded to what needs to happen in order to make a better world. You know,
that last point is 100% the only thing that I care about.
Yeah,
that is, for me, there needs to, because I'm okay with Eren being the bad guy. I'm 100% okay. I'm okay. I'm really okay with it being how the story goes. But the fact that we haven't seen a single character kind of go that direction, and we've even seen Armin in the last episode of season 4, part 1, mention you had such a noble goal when it's just
it's
a cultural cleansing of your own people.
I'm okay with Armin going along with it as long as he understands the ramifications of that. Like, again, if Armin was saying like if even Armin was like rationalizing it with himself and saying like, is this our best option?
Yeah, that would be something to work with.
Yes.
But the fact that we haven't seen that yet is what troubles me.
That's the rub. That's exactly what it is. As long as there's at least one person who can just clearly articulate that viewpoint, we're good. I don't care what happens. I like literally anything could happen. Like, we don't need a happy ending, you know? Like, in order to make a positive impact on the world and to make a piece of media that is, you know, insightful and can be applicable to real life, it does not need to have, everybody, Eldians and Marlians, they're all happy and everything's great now. The war, over. Like, that doesn't need to happen. That doesn't need to happen. But you need at least a light in the darkness. Because Attack on Titan, oh boy.
It's bleak. Yeah. It's bleak.
You just need at least that one person.
Well,
they got to step up. I
think that's it for the day. Yeah, that was a behemoth of a podcast to go through.
Let us know what you thought about what do you think about Attack on Titan? Just really, what is this show? Because I feel like we've gone back and forth on it's good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad. It's complicated.
It's complicated. Complicated really is the best word. It is absolutely complicated.
Well, let us know what you thought about Attack on Titan in our discussion in the comment section down below. And join us. I'm not sure when the video will come out, but sometime in the weekday after Sunday is when we release not only our discussion, but also a very small highlight reel where we'll be watching Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2. So join us then. Until next time, I'm Abraham. That's Ben. And this is Too Fast, Too Movie.
I can't wait to see the Rumbling in Berserk 2016 CGI.
Goodbye, everybody.